Never start a prayer asking God for more. Start by asking Him for wisdom. That one shift changed a king's entire life, and it can change yours too. There was a man who had everything: power, wealth, armies, women, palaces built from gold and stone. And yet, when God appeared to him in a dream and said, "Ask me for anything," this man didn't ask for more money. He didn't ask for more land. He didn't ask for a longer life or the death of his enemies. He asked for one thing: wisdom. And because of that one request, he became the richest, wisest, most respected man to ever walk the earth. His name was Solomon, and today we're going to break down what his life teaches us about prayer, about wisdom, and about what it really means to ask God for the right things. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why most of us pray for the wrong things. You're going to understand why Solomon's prayer is still studied thousands of years later, and you're going to walk away with a completely different way of talking to God. So stick with me, because this one is going to hit different. Let's set the stage. Solomon was the son of King David. If you know anything about the Bible, you know David was a big deal. He was the shepherd boy who killed a giant with a sling and a stone. He became king. He wrote most of the Psalms. He was called a man after God's own heart. So imagine being his son. Imagine having to fill those shoes. That's the position Solomon was in when he became king. He was young. Some scholars believe he was still a teenager, or maybe in his early 20s, when he took the throne. Think about that for a second. A teenager ruling an entire nation right after his father, one of the greatest kings in history, passed away. That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of weight to carry, and Solomon knew it. He wasn't naive about the size of the task in front of him. He had a whole kingdom depending on him to make the right calls, wars to avoid, laws to create, people to lead, and he had no experience. So one night, God comes to Solomon in a dream and says something that most of us would dream about hearing. Ask for whatever you want me to give you. Read that again. Whatever you want, no limits, no conditions. If God said that to you right now, what would you ask for? Be honest with yourself for a second. Would you ask for money? Would you ask for a better job? A better relationship? A bigger house? Most of us would go straight for the material stuff. That's just human nature. We think our problems will disappear if we just have more. But Solomon didn't do that, and this is where it gets interesting. Solomon looked at his situation honestly. He said, "God, I'm young. I don't know how to carry out my duties. I don't know how to lead these people. Give me wisdom to govern this nation and to know the difference between right and wrong." That was it. That was the entire prayer. Not "make me powerful," not "make me rich," not "protect me from my enemies." Just give me wisdom to tell right from wrong and to serve the people I'm responsible for. Now here's the part that should stop you in your tracks. God was pleased with this request. So pleased, in fact, that he said, "Since you didn't ask for wealth or a long life or the death of your enemies, but instead asked for wisdom to govern well, I will give you what you asked for. But I'm also going to give you what you didn't ask for: riches, honor. A kind of wisdom no one before you has had, and no one after you will ever match." Think about that for a second. Solomon didn't ask for money, but because he asked for the right thing first, the money came anyway. He didn't ask to be famous, but because he asked for wisdom, his fame spread across nations. Queens traveled from faraway kingdoms just to test him with hard questions, just to see if the stories about his wisdom were true. This is the part of the story that people miss. We think we have to chase the money, chase the status, chase the success directly. But Solomon's story teaches us something different. When you put the right priority first, everything else tends to follow. This isn't some magic trick. It's not ask for wisdom and get rich quick. It's deeper than that. When you have wisdom, you naturally make better decisions. Better decisions lead to better outcomes. Better outcomes build over time into wealth, respect, and influence. Wisdom is the root. Everything else is the fruit that grows from it. So let's slow down here, because I want you to really sit with this idea. What does it actually mean to ask for wisdom? It's not just about being smart. Solomon wasn't asking God to make him good at math or good at arguing. He was asking for something much more practical. He was asking for the ability to understand people, to understand situations, to make decisions that actually work out well in real life, not just decisions that sound good in theory. There's a story that shows this perfectly, and it's probably the most famous story about Solomon. Two women came to him, both claiming to be the mother of the same baby. There were no witnesses, no DNA tests, no way to prove who was telling the truth. Both women stood in front of the king, crying, pointing fingers at each other. Any normal judge would have been stuck. How do you decide something like that with no evidence? But Solomon did something no one expected. He said, "Bring me a sword. Cut the baby in half. Give each woman one half." Now imagine being in that room. Imagine the shock. But here's what happened next. One woman said, "Fine, cut the baby in half, so neither of us has him." But the other woman, the real mother, said, "No, please, give the baby to her. Don't kill him." And in that moment, Solomon knew exactly who the real mother was, because a real mother would rather lose her child to someone else than see that child harmed. That's not a trick you learn in school. That's not something you memorize from a textbook. That's wisdom. That's understanding how people actually think and feel deep down when they're pushed to their limits. And this is why Solomon's name has lasted for thousands of years. Not because he had the most money, not because he built the biggest temple, even though he did build one of the greatest structures of the ancient world. He's remembered because of how he thought, how he understood people, how he made decisions that seemed impossible to make. Now let's bring this back to us, because this story isn't just an old tale to admire from a distance. It's a mirror. It's asking us a question. What are we praying for? What are we chasing? If you look at how a lot of us pray, we pray for relief. We pray for our problems to disappear. We pray for money to show up. We pray for the relationship to work out, for the job to come through, for the pain to stop. And there's nothing wrong with bringing those things to God. He wants to hear about our struggles. He cares about the details of our lives. But Solomon's prayer shows us there's a deeper layer we're missing. Instead of just praying for our circumstances to change, what if we prayed for the wisdom to handle our circumstances well? Instead of praying, "God, get me out of this mess," what if we prayed, "God, help me understand what to do with this mess"? Instead of praying, "God, make this person love me," what if we prayed, "God, give me the wisdom to know if this relationship is even good for me"? See the difference? One is asking God to change your situation for you. The other is asking God to change how you see and handle your situation. And honestly, the second one is a lot more powerful because circumstances change all the time. Life is never going to stop throwing problems at you. The moment one thing gets resolved, something else pops up. That's just how life works. But if you have wisdom, if you know how to think clearly, how to make good decisions, how to stay calm under pressure, you can handle whatever comes next. Wisdom doesn't just fix one problem. It prepares you for every problem after that too. This is why Solomon's prayer still matters today. Even if you're not a king, even if you don't run a country, you still have decisions to make every single day. Who to trust, what job to take, how to spend your money, how to raise your kids, how to treat the people around you. These are all moments where wisdom matters more than luck, more than money, more than talent. Let's go even deeper into this, because there's something else in Solomon's story that people often skip over. Even after becoming the wisest man alive, Solomon still made mistakes, big ones. Later in his life, he let other things pull his heart away. He married many wives from different nations, and some of those relationships led him to build places of worship for false gods, just to please the people he loved. The man who once had the clearest understanding of right and wrong ended up compromising the very wisdom God gave him. Why does this matter? Because it shows us that wisdom isn't a one-time gift you receive and then keep forever without effort. It's something you have to protect. It's something you have to keep choosing, day after day. You can be wise in one season of your life and still drift away from that wisdom later if you're not careful about what you allow into your heart. Solomon himself, later in life, wrote a book called Ecclesiastes, where he reflects on all the things he chased, all the pleasure, all the wealth, all the accomplishments. And he says something very humbling. He says all of it was meaningless, like chasing after the wind, if it wasn't connected to God. Think about that. The wisest, richest man in history looked back at his entire life and said, "None of this satisfied me the way I thought it would." The real conclusion he came to, at the end of his life, was simple. Respect God and follow what He asks of you, because that's what life is really about. Not the riches, not the fame, not the pleasure, just a real relationship with God, walking in wisdom every single day. What does this mean for you and me? It means the next time you go to pray, before you ask for the raise, before you ask for the relationship, before you ask for your circumstances to change, try asking for wisdom first. Ask God to help you see your life clearly. Ask Him to help you make good decisions, even in the hard moments. Ask Him to help you understand people, understand yourself, and understand what actually matters. Because when you build your life on that foundation, everything else tends to fall into place the way it's supposed to. Solomon's story isn't just about a king from thousands of years ago. It's a blueprint. It shows us that the greatest prayer isn't asking God to remove every obstacle from our path. It's asking Him to give us the wisdom to walk through those obstacles the right way. And if a young, inexperienced king could become the wisest man in history just by asking for the right thing, imagine what could happen in your life if you started praying the same way. If this made you think differently about how you pray, subscribe, because the next video goes even deeper into this.